What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Fireside Giants. I'm your host, Anthony Rivardo, joined by my co-host, Alex Wilson, and the NFL season is almost over. The New York Giants have one game left to play versus the Philadelphia Eagles, and then it's draft season. It's free agency season. It's roster building season. We're so close to the end of this miserable 2023 regular season. The Giants ended this year with such high expectations, so much potential, and it feels like it all got squandered. It was a really rough, inconsistent year. Yeah, they're ending it on a pretty high note. They picked up a few wins down the stretch. They've been competitive against a few playoff caliber teams, but ultimately this season is going down as a disappointment and in many ways a failure for the New York Giants. So looking ahead to this upcoming offseason, there's a lot to be excited about. The Giants are going to have a high pick once again, but maybe they could go even higher in the draft order. I know in yesterday's episode I was unable to attend. Alex and Ryan, they discussed the kind of possibilities of trading up to that first overall pick, and some Bears fan is getting really excited by the idea that the Chicago Bears might be trading down and whipped up this crazy, absolutely insane mock trade where the Chicago Bears received Dexter Lawrence, 3 first-round picks, and a second-round pick from the New York Giants just so that the Giants can move up to the first overall pick to draft the quarterback of their choice. We're going to go ahead and react to this wild mock trade scenario. I will say straight off the bat, no, this is an instant reject button. The Giants would be getting fleeced in this one. Bears fans, I love a lot of you. A lot of you are really crazy. This is one of those moments where I say I don't know if these Bears fans watch any football outside of just Chicago Bears football. But we're going to go ahead and react to this mock trade in today's episode. But before we dive into all that, make sure to like if you do enjoy this episode. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. Ring the bell so you don't miss an episode, and comment your thoughts on the topics down below in the comment section. If you listen on Apple or Spotify, please make sure to leave us a 5-star review, and go ahead and follow us on all of our social media channels at Fireside Giants. But without further ado, Alex, how are you doing today, my friend? And what is your initial reaction to this crazy Chicago Bears mock trade?
I'm doing pretty well, and this actually brightened my day a little bit because of how hard I was laughing this morning looking at this deal. Look, if you mashed every single drug on earth together, this is what would be the product of that. Just absolute ridiculousness. Look, 3 first-round picks already. I'm like, geez, that's a lot, man. Throwing in arguably the best defensive player in the game, arguably the best defensive tackle in football, on top of 3 first-round picks and a second-round pick, I don't even know how you come up with this level of bullshit, to be honest with you. Like, you have to be absolutely out of your mind. If I'm Joe Schoen, if Joe Schoen did this deal, I actually think I'd have to rescind my fandom of the Giants. I'm a diehard fan. I mean, Anthony, you're a diehard fan. I don't know if we could support this team anymore. That's how dumb this would be. This would be like franchise crushing type of move. Moving up, basically the only player on your the player that's holding your defense together in Dexter Lawrence, literally holding it together by a hamstring. He has one hamstring right now and he's holding it together. Moving him would be, oh my God, 4 years, $90 million deal. I just signed him to a $46.5 million guaranteed at signing. I mean, it's a bargain for a player of this magnitude. In a couple of years, when that deal is churning along, and we're in the second, third year, and that deal's like, oh, this is a really good deal right now. This looks like it was an absolute steal. We're gonna remember this moment and say, thank God our general manager isn't this freaking dumb, because this is the dumbest thing. Now, I get Bears fans are like, look, we want to get maximum value for the number 1 overall pick. If you don't want to go in the direction of sticking with Justin Fields, I get you want to get as much value as possible. First-round picks, players. They're like, we can get a DJ Moore and multiple first-round picks like the Panthers did last year, to get Bryce Young. But look how it turned out for them, man. Bryce Young is struggling over there, and now they don't have a first-round pick to support him. They're in kind of a problematic state. Their owners throwing beers at Jacksonville Jaguars fans. If the Giants need to actually go and look at what the result of making a deal like that looks like, look at what the Panthers look like right now. They're going nowhere fast. And look, I'd love to go up and try to get a Caleb Williams or get one of these guys, but if it means looking like the Panthers, I think I'm out on that. To be quite honest with you, I think I'm good. However, there is a deal I'd be willing. There's deals out there I'd be willing to consider. This one specifically, just absolutely blew my mind. I couldn't even believe what I was reading. And then he goes on, by the way, to justify it, saying crazy things like he's like, oh, this guy isn't one of the top defensive tackles. We have 2 interior guys, or somebody else was saying they have 2 interior tackles who are, just as good as Dexter Lawrence. Like you said, do these guys even watch football? Do these guys even watch anything outside of Bears football? I really don't understand. The comments are just Giants fans laughing at this guy, constantly laughing at this guy. Just delete this now. You're absolutely crazy. I don't even know like how you come up with something so ridiculous. You know, are you even willing to part ways with Dexter Lawrence? I know somebody asked on Twitter yesterday, like, is anyone untouchable on this team? To me, Andrew Thomas and Dexter Lawrence are completely untouchable. Like they're untouchable. Also, another like weird side quest I want to go on here is why do people think that like? So I asked the question on Twitter: if we drafted Michael Penix, if you know Michael Penix, he's a lefty, right? People are suggesting moving Andrew Thomas to right tackle as an alternative because you need to protect his blind side. Do people not understand that like transitioning from left to right tackle is not so easy? Like it's not just as easy as like, oh, Andrew Thomas is gonna be an all-pro right tackle. Guys, he's like one of the best left tackles in football. I'd actually throw up. I'd actually like die internally if we moved Andrew Thomas from a position he's elite at. Like imagine changing like your CB1, your top cornerback, Jalen Ramsey in his prime, and saying, you know what? We already have a guy there. Let's move him to free safety because we have some good corners. That's like the craziest thing ever. Like, why would you do that? What are your thoughts about these narratives going on? People are getting all sorts out of whack these days. I don't know what's happening in Giants Twitter land or Bears Twitter land for that matter.
Well, it's just kind of that moment in the season leading into the offseason where there's just so much going on in terms of speculating over this prospect and that player and this mock trade. So, all the mock trades that we're going to see, they're going to get wild. Some of them are more realistic than others. To answer your first question, Dexter Lawrence is untouchable for me. He and Andrew Thomas are the two untouchable players. Because of the status of Daniel Jones' contract, he's also untouchable, though I wish we could trade him. But Daniel Jones' contract is not going to be moved. So those are really probably the three players that the New York Giants are going to keep out of every conversation. There is an argument to be made where Kayvon Thibodeau could be considered untouchable. He's a great young pass rusher, put up 10 plus sacks, but the Giants, I feel like they could maybe be persuaded just because Thibodeau has had a little bit of a disappearing act here and there. I'm a little 50-50 on whether or not I would consider him untouchable, but I know that there's a lot of fans who do consider him untouchable, and I could totally respect that opinion as well. Another player, though, that I think could probably yield some solid trade offers if the Giants were to make him available is Saquon Barkley. I know that the Chicago Bears have been interested in Saquon Barkley in the past, so if we're talking about trading up for the number 1 overall pick, maybe it could happen on a tag and trade deal. Maybe the Giants throw the franchise tag on Saquon, then package him in a trade up to get to the number 1 overall pick. That might be the most realistic option here. Dexter Lawrence is not a realistic option. He's not going anywhere. And then to kind of jump onto your side quest here and talk about the Andrew Thomas thing, moving Andrew Thomas's position, switching him to the other side of the line, I agree with you. That's a terrible decision. It's an awful idea. Guys, I like Michael Penix as well. I think I have him as my number 4 quarterback in this draft right now. I think he's a great player. He's really talented. He really showed up and showed out in the CFP. But I do not want to see the Giants completely dismantle the career of Andrew Thomas just for the chance that it may benefit a rookie quarterback in Michael Penix. Like, Andrew Thomas has established himself as an elite offensive tackle, as an elite left tackle in specific. You don't risk it. You don't change him maybe becoming an average right tackle. It's not that kind of, you don't want an average right tackle when you had a franchise left tackle and then have to figure out left tackle all over again, right? Because then what do the Giants do? Going out there and trading for a left tackle? Did you guys see what the Chiefs traded to get their franchise left tackle? What the Bengals traded to get their franchise left tackle? It's not easy to just trade for a franchise tackle. So if the New York Giants feel like they have a franchise left tackle, you just keep him where he is and you hope that you develop a right tackle. I understand if you draft Michael Penix, then maybe you have a conversation about going in the second round and immediately trading up into the first and getting your offensive tackle, or going out into free agency, spending big money on a right tackle. Yeah, there's many different scenarios where the Giants will need to address the right tackle position if they draft Michael Penix, but really, guys, they need to address that position anyway. Evan Neal is not the future of the right tackle position for the New York Giants, in my opinion, so they're going to have to go into free agency or the draft and find a solution there regardless. And I think that Evan Neal could still have a successful NFL career, but you guys know where I stand. I think that he has a successful NFL career inside at guard, particularly at left guard, playing alongside Andrew Thomas. So I do not envision any possible scenario whether either of these two options come true, I don't think Dexter Lawrence gets traded at any point, and I don't think that Andrew Thomas gets his position moved at any point again. If anybody on the offensive line gets their position switched, it's going to be Evan Neal. They're going to have to move him in at guard, I think. I just don't think that they can go into 2024 expecting this guy to win that starting right tackle job. At the very least, they need to bring in some competition for him. But moving up for that first overall pick, Alex, it's something that Giants fans are going to be interested in. Half of them will be. Half of them are going to hate the idea. And it's going to be one of those things where you might not win that trade immediately, but in the long run, you might win that trade. Like, if you look at this past year, the Chicago Bears got incredible production out of DJ Moore. They got the first overall pick out of that trade with the Carolina Panthers. And Bryce Young didn't look that great this season. But he also was playing in a really bad environment. He did have some really great moments. He flashed potential. And in 5 years from now, if he becomes a 2-time MVP in the next 5 years, the Panthers won that trade. So it's really tough to make a judgment and to make a decision when, or like a jurisdiction, like to say, give a grade to this trade 1 year later. But it is something that the Giants are going to have to consider doing, because maybe if you look at the past, like the Eli Manning trade, for example, number 1 overall pick there, sometimes you have to take the risk. It doesn't pay off immediately. The Giants missed the playoffs that first season with Eli Manning. He played poorly as a rookie. Eventually they won Super Bowls over it. So it's really a lot of give and take here, and there's a lot of pros and cons to the situation. But with 4 months left to go until this upcoming NFL draft, there's going to be a lot of ridiculous mock trades like this one. There's going to be a lot of different scenarios, and it's going to be really tough. But I do trust in Joe Schoen to make the decision. And I'll say exactly why, Alex, and I want to hear your take on this. I trust Joe Schoen to make the right decision about the quarterback position, the right trade for the quarterback position, because he was involved in one of these situations before. Back in 2018, go back in time, Josh Allen was the 7th overall pick in the 2018 NFL draft. The Buffalo Bills were picking number 12 in the draft. They traded up 5 spots. They gave up 2 second-round picks, and they landed their quarterback at number 7 overall, Josh Allen, who, of course, we know has turned into an all-star in the NFL. So, Alex, when you're looking at that trade, 2018, the Bills moved up 5 picks, and they just gave up 2 extra second-round picks to do so. You know a team who has 2 second-round picks this season? The New York Giants. Do you envision a scenario where maybe they don't move all the way up to 1? The price tag for 1 is going to be 2 to 3 first-round picks. Maybe that's too rich for the Giants, but maybe they move up to 3. Maybe they move up 1 spot, 2 spots, 3 spots, and they give up both of those second-round picks to move up and get their quarterback. Do you think that's something that you can get behind, or do you think that's a more realistic scenario for the Giants and Giants fans to kind of envision here?
I mean, we'll see what happens after Week 18, because for all we know, they could end up with a top 3 pick if, the New England Patriots beat the Jets and Arizona wins against the Seattle Seahawks. I mean, they just beat the Eagles, so I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility. They beat the Seahawks too. A lot could happen in Week 18. The Giants could win for all we know, and then we're really in a position of like, okay, maybe we just go receiver at this point, and then try to take like a JJ McCarthy in the second round. Like a lot's going to happen after Sunday that we're going to be like, okay, this changes a lot, or it doesn't change anything at all. But with that being said, the Giants right now, if the Bears and Arizona Cardinals don't want to move, if they don't want quarterbacks, the Giants will end up with one of the top 3 guys. And personally, I think there's weaknesses and strengths to all 3 of them, to Jaden, to Caleb, to Drake. And to be quite honest with you, I'd be happy getting either one of those 3. And for what it's worth, I think the Giants would too. They probably view those 3 guys. Maybe there's marginal differences on their draft boards. Maybe it's like 1, 2, 3, but it's like a 1A, 1B, 1C type of situation. And they're happy getting one of those 3 guys because they know the developmental upside is elite. Maybe that's where they look. Maybe that's what they're thinking. We're happy to get the one that falls in our lap. You know what I mean? If one doesn't fall in our lap, then so be it. But if one does, we get that guy. We don't necessarily need to move up to number 1 because the margin between 1A and 1C is not as big as 3 first-round picks and Dexter Lawrence. You know what I mean? Like, maybe it's not that big. Maybe it's not even worth the margin between those 3 guys is not even worth 2 first-round picks. So maybe they just stay put at 4 or 5 or 3, wherever they are, and then take the best player that comes to them. Like, it's totally possible. I don't think Joe Schoen's scared of trading up, but I think we also have to acknowledge that I've said repeatedly, the Giants brass knows that they're on the hot seat, right? Joe Schoen and Dable probably know they have 1 more year to mount this type of momentum. Darius Slayton was just speaking like 30 minutes ago about how he thought they were going to... He stayed with the Giants because he thought they were going to continue their momentous kind of growth forward, to take a step forward after making a wild card appearance and winning a wild card appearance in 2022, I guess. Yeah, 2022. So, you ask yourself, the players thought they were going to take a step forward. They didn't. The front office thought it. They didn't. Now ownership's like, if they take another step in the wrong direction, how do you stick with them? So I think that Dable and Shane know that they have to do something now. They've got to put themselves in a spot where they can win the ball games. And look, there's no question, in my opinion, if you have Caleb, if you have Drake, if you have Jaden Daniels, like, you can win just as many games this year as you, if not way more next year, because you're going to have a better quarterback situation. I'd say any three of those guys are probably better than Tyrod Taylor right now. Any of the three of those guys are probably better than Tommy DeVito and Daniel Jones right now, especially Daniel Jones coming off a torn ACL and a second neck injury. I'd say any of those three guys gives us a better chance of winning ball games in the future. So, with that being said, it's about winning games. And if you guys like winning games, that's probably where you would look. But I just kind of wanted to react to that crazy mock trade because it was hilarious. But one thing I do want to suggest, Anthony, we didn't even get to talk about this yet. I really would love to watch a game for each of these quarterbacks, Bo Nix, JJ McCarthy, all these guys against a good level defense. And just watch it live with you guys as fans. Be like, what are we liking about this guy? That way you can watch along with us. And we can kind of check out these quarterbacks one by one, because I think it'll be fun to kind of get a look at what these guys offer, like, strengths, weaknesses, the vibes they give us. Can they win at the NFL level? Those intangible or tangible traits that definitely could transition. It'll be fun to do that because I think that'll give a lot of value to you guys, and I certainly want to dive deeper into these quarterbacks. And I think we'll do it for some receivers too. We'll do it for the top guys, neighbors. I don't think Marvin Harrison Jr. is probably going to be in our wheelhouse just because of our draft spot and kind of our needs. But even the second round guys like Brian Thomas from LSU, really, really exciting player. Like, I think that there's some really, Malachi Corley, there's some really fun players in the second round there that we should take a look at that have really cool traits and attributes. I know you have a whole list of guys that you're looking at in the second round. And then, of course, we'll look at offensive linemen too. So, this next couple of months as we wait for the draft to come upon us, we're going to look at a lot of players here, and I think we're going to get a good idea of where the Giants should be looking and what some high upside talent looks like, especially if we retain most of our draft capital. But, I'll hand it off to you there to kind of round out that concept.
Well, I think it's an exciting concept. I know it's something that we've kind of been loosely planning, but it's cool to kind of mention on the channel now, and so that everybody knows. We're definitely going to be doing a bunch of film breakdowns and taking a look at film and live reacting to different quarterback prospects, wide receiver prospects, really just all of the draft prospects, and maybe we'll even do it for some free agency targets as well, taking a look at certain guys that we think that could be good fits for the Giants. I know I've mentioned Michael Pierce, defensive tackle, Baltimore Ravens. That's a guy who's on an expiring deal. Might be an option for the Giants if they want to reunite him with Wink Martindale in the offseason. We could take a look at him. But if we're talking about those quarterbacks, I mean, I'll tell you, I got Caleb 1, I got Drake May 2, and then I got Jaden Daniels 3. After that, it's a little bit of a toss-up, but I definitely have Michael Penix 4, and I think JJ McCarthy is more of a second-round guy. But looking at those wide receivers, you mentioned Malachi Corkley, Brian Thomas Jr. I'm going to throw out there Xavier Legette. I've seen a lot of Giants fans put him in their mock drafts. He's been in every single one that I've done. If he's there at the top of the second round, I'm sprinting to the podium. If I'm Joe Shane and Xavier Legette is there, I just drafted a quarterback in round 1, and now Xavier Legette out of South Carolina is there. It's a dream pairing. I got to get that guy in the second round. I think that he is just an absolute stud. And there's quite a few players that I feel that way about. I really think that there's at least 5 wide receivers that are worthy of being picked in the first round this year. And that's rare. Last year we talked about some of those top guys, Jordan Addison, Quentin Johnston, Zay Flowers. We thought that they were good. They were the best receivers in the class, but they weren't necessarily number 1 first round picks. Like, if you stack them up to previous draft classes, like the one with CeeDee Lamb and Jerry Jeudy in it, those guys probably aren't even wide receivers 4, wide receiver 3 in that draft class, the top guys of last year's class. This year's class blows that 2020 with Jeudy and CeeDee Lamb, blows that one out of the water. This is an incredible wide receiver draft class. So yeah, it's going to be really exciting as we get into this offseason and we take a look at all the different scenarios and all the different players that the New York Giants are scouting and could potentially select. It's going to be a lot of fun, and I can't wait for it. So we got this one last game left to play, and then the regular season is over. You mentioned it. Maybe the Giants could be picking 3 overall after this Sunday's game. They also could be picking like 8 overall. They could go down the draft order if they win this game against the Eagles. I know a lot of Giants fans are just assuming that the Giants are going to lose this game. I don't know, guys. History would suggest that there's a pretty good chance the Giants could win this game because there has not been a repeat winner in the NFC East in something like 20 years. If the Eagles lose, the Cowboys win, that trend continues, history would repeat itself, and we would not have a repeat winner. We would have a new winner of the NFC East. So history would suggest that the Cowboys are somehow going to pull this out, but it would require the New York Giants winning this weekend. And for what it's worth, we're playing the Eagles, so I'm rooting for the Giants, guys. I'm not rooting for a loss against the Eagles ever in my lifetime. I want to win this game. I do not care what happens with the draft pick. I want to beat the Eagles. That would be the perfect way for me to end this, what has been a really disappointing 2023 season. But again, like I said, the Giants could be picking number 3. They could be picking number 8, maybe 10. I don't know how exactly the draft board could shape out with what the worst case scenario is. I do know best case scenario, the Giants can move up here after this weekend, but again, it's all a crapshoot anyway in the NFL draft. Having the number 1 overall pick, you could draft the Bryce Young, and number 2 overall goes CJ Stroud. It happens. So we'll see what happens in the draft for the Giants. But again, as Alex mentioned, we got a whole lot of exciting content planned, and I can't wait to dive into it, start producing that for all of you loyal viewers, listeners of Fireside Giants. So make sure to leave a like if you did enjoy this episode. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. Ring the bell so you don't miss an episode. Comment your thoughts on the topics down below in the comment section. If you listen on Apple or Spotify, please make sure to leave us a 5-star review, and go ahead and follow us on all of our social media channels at Fireside Giants. But without further ado, we will catch you on the next one. Have a good one, and let's go Giants.